Hi, welcome to Montana State of Mind with me, Montana, a channel where we recap old vintage romance novels and sometimes like horror and hopefully sci-fi in the future. But y'all, this month we finally did it. We got her, gal. Well, we didn't get her physically. We got Sea Treasure, a gorgeous, gorgeous little mermaid named Serena emailed me her digital copy, and I was able to finally read the damn thing and write notes and able to recap it. Also, real quick, if the audio is in one ear hole, I'm so sorry. I am not this is not a very big setup here. I'm filming on a phone that is probably 7 years old. I promise I'm going to get a new phone. And this microphone is from Amazon. Like, it's a very rudimentary setup. I just got a new desktop. I promise I'm going to update and get better equipment that is more reliable slowly as this progresses, hopefully this year. But do you know, I do everything the same way, so I don't know why it went in one ear hole. I looked it up, and like obviously it's like this mono stereo thing. But do know, like, I didn't touch anything to make it do it. Obviously something went wrong. I think it's this microphone, honestly. I get a lot of trouble from this microphone. So, do know I know. Everybody, I made a post that said, hey, I know, and everybody still kept commenting, but I know y'all were just trying to be helpful. I get it. I know. I will do my best to make sure this uploads, hopefully in both y'all's ear holes. If it doesn't, just pretend I'm over your shoulder telling you the story. It works in cars and on your TV and laptops, so just take out your headphones and let everybody on the subway or in your house hear me. Problem solved. That being said, we got Sea Treasure, digital copy. Now I don't have the physical, so when we do the cover, I'm going to be kind of pulling out my ass of like what I remember it. I studied it for a while, so I feel like I know the cover. For those who are new, the drama with this fucking book was I saw it on eBay because I scour eBay for like unique, romance novels. I follow a lot of Instagrams that post them and stuff. And also just I shop out in the wild for them. They're everywhere. But I like to scour eBay and the internet to find unique ones that I'm like, wow, that's a crazy story. And this one I saw had a mermaid on it. I saw it on Instagram and I was like, a mermaid romance novel from the 90's? I had to look it up. You never see it. And so I was like, okay, we have to have it. I looked it up, remember at the time, for those who were with me, and it was like $40 to $70. And all of y'all were like, absolutely not, Montana. Don't you dare spend $40 to $70 on a paperback romance novel. Don't you dare do it. Little did we know that was a steal. And so I said, okay, we won't. But I really wanted to cover it. It was kind of haunting me, like a siren call, if you will. And I really wanted to cover it. And so I bit the bullet and I went and bought it. I think it was like $70 with tax. And I never got it. And I said, okay. And so I emailed the seller and they said, oh, we don't have it. We mistakenly uploaded it. We'll send you a refund. I got the refund. I went to look again. And not only is it a rare book, but the only few copies are now $500. What the fuck? I like to be narcissistic and delusional and think, oh my God, my channel's popping off and now all these sellers are going to be like raising the prices of these books. But I know that's not the case. I think it's truly just the trend in general of reading these novels, these vintage novels. I don't think I started it. I think I'm a part of the wave, but I do think it is a trend, or maybe it's just the space I'm in. I don't know. It's now like $400 to $500. And I know some of y'all are like, I see it for $70 on Abe Books. That's where I bought it from. And they still haven't taken it down from when I bought it that much. I don't know if y'all see it out in the wild or if y'all see it on the internet and they actually have a physical copy for $40 to $70, buy that damn thing. There's another novel that I really want that is also extremely expensive. It is called The House of Scorpio. I'll post a picture here. It's called The House of Scorpio. I saw it on Instagram. I looked it up and it was like $200 to $300. And y'all, I saw it in a book lot, like a gaggle of books. A pile of books. And I saw it in there and I was like, oh my God, House of Scorpio. I need to buy this lot for like $40. So I'll have it. And it sold like immediately. I try to buy these rare books to cover and they're so expensive. Maybe I'll start making like a lot of money off of this channel and I can just write it off for tax purposes as work. I don't know. We'll find some way to hack the system. Serena the Mermaid, she gave me her digital copy and I'm so, so grateful because now we get to share it with all of y'all. If you're new to this channel, what we do here is we cover, we kind of do like a quick, like what I kind of thought, just so if you want to like sit for probably 3 hours to listen to this, don't worry, I put chapter breaks. And then we go over the cover art because the cover art is a work of art in itself. Back in the day, these things were like painted and beautiful. We go into fictional made up author lore just because I like to do that. I think it's fun. And then we recap this novel and it's a great time. We have loved so many novels, even the few bad ones we've found ways to enjoy. I'm a very positive person. I think this world is so fucking cynical and full of haters. Every piece of art that comes out has a wave of haters. And it's like, don't y'all enjoy anything anymore? Can't y'all just enjoy anything? And so that's what I like to promote on the channel. I know the last video was a bit like, that was probably the first book that we didn't really like, but we still had a good time. I do like to promote like positivity and enjoying these books. It's easy to be a hater. It's easy to pick apart a 30-year-old romance novel. You are not doing anything profound by pointing out how out of date and cheesy it is. Girl, we know. That's why we're here. We like it. We like it cheesy. So if you're here wanting me to hate on these novels and stuff, I think there's like last video is probably there's a bug. Last video is probably the only one I actually was a hater. So go do that one. But other than that, we have a good time and we enjoy these. Okay. So let's get into this cover. Now, obviously I don't have a physical copy of this cover, but it really reminded me of, what was it? Bubbling Fountain Mermaid Barbie. I'll post, like I have a picture of the cover if you want to glance up and see it. But it really, this version of this mermaid looks just like Bubbling Fountain Mermaid Barbie, which came out in, I think, 1996. Wasn't my favorite Mermaid Barbie, but I will digress on my opinions on it. But it's giving that because she has, okay, back up, Montana. I kind of like jump in the middle of like all of these descriptions and like the audio listeners on their commute are just like, what? Okay, here's the cover. Let me see here. Imagine a crisp blue sky, you know, very Toy Story blue with the clouds, like just a picturesque sky. Picturesque sky, there you go. And then you're going to have literally ocean waves coming up that are the same color as the sky and clouds. So it kind of mixes together. It's actually really like a really cool way of doing this. Like the sky and the clouds mix with the ocean waves coming up and the ocean. And then you have this Barbie doll blonde woman. And I'll say this. I love how the women on these covers look like women. They don't look like girls. They don't look like young teenagers. They look like women. Like she looks like she's in her 30s, like almost like her bone structure is so strong. I'm just like, yeah, she looks like a grown woman. And I love that. However, Meg is the mermaid in this novel. She is not a grown woman in this novel. And we will get to that. But she has her arms raised up like she's doing like a tricep. For the audio listeners, imagine taking both hands and you're doing a crunch behind your head, like that thing with your elbows up. She's doing that. Her hands are probably like running under her hair to like lift it up in the surf. She's got very yellow blonde hair. Again, she's giving Mermaid Barbie. She's got kind of a lilac eyeshadow, a red lip. It's a very 90s mermaid and I love it. And she's topless. And now the male that is holding her is also naked. And he's a white guy with black hair. Couldn't get more basic. Like they never put any time on the guys half the time. Because you're just like, who's looking at the guys? But it's true. It's just a white guy, hairless. Do your bingo cards. Not a hair to be seen on this man except on top of his head. And he is holding her, and his embrace is covering her breasts. So you get his back, and he's looking up at her. And he's kind of given, I think, honestly, on this cover, he looks like a jet black haired Kevin Bacon. I don't know. He kind of looks Kevin Bacon-y to me. And then here we kind of have like a Helen Hunt. So on the cover, imagine Kevin Bacon and Helen Hunt. Now they're naked, but she has this big blue tail that is covering their torsos. And so you're just like, okay, mermaid. Like, that's what caught my attention when I saw it, was this like giant fucking blue tail. And then there's like this pink chiffon scarf covering her nipple. It's fun. It's fun. You don't want to see a clamshell. You don't want to see a starfish bra. A nice little chiffon magenta scarf flowing over her nipple. Very classy. Very tasteful. Now, Joanna Haley and Sea Treasure is in hot pink foil with a little yellow outlining. Again, the colors on these covers could be an art class. I'm not huge into like color theory and art and stuff, but I feel like you could do a whole class on the color spectrum and complements of these covers. They're always so beautiful. Now, do the characters in the book look like the ones on the cover? And I know that's always a plot of discussion on here. Absolutely not. The characters in this novel, I mean, they could, but I don't think I ever picture like what the covers, or I go with what I want. I cast crazy. And so when I tell y'all who I cast in this novel, y'all are going to be like, oh, okay. Because I go off of like personality, who they remind me of. I go off of the weirdest descriptions. I go off of like I don't know. Like, y'all want to know who I cast in this movie? I'll go ahead and tell y'all. Like I said, it looks like Helen Hunt and Kevin Bacon on this cover. I casted as Michael Glenn Morgan is going to be the sea captain, the love interest. I cast Walter Goggins because he was described as a Southern Carolina boy. My God. Cast as a Southern Carolina boy turned pirate, as one does. And he was a pirate. It was leathery and dark and tan and sinewy and lean and I mean, he's like Walter Goggins as a Southern pirate. Hello, who wouldn't? And I love that Walter Goggins is a sex symbol, because Hollywood is probably scratching their heads at like Pedro Pascal and Walter Goggins and all of these quote unquote older men, seen as such sex symbols to women. And they're like, really? The Goggins? And we're just like, girl, we're gagging over the Goggins. Yes, I'm a mermaid. I see Walter Goggins on a captain ship. Like, I'm following. Come on, dolphins, let's go. But I casted him. And then as the mermaid's name in this novel is Meg. Great. I know. But she is described as very willowy, because she's a mermaid. Like, she's not necessarily, she's very lean and very muscular. She's described as having a very wild kind of look to her. And her hair is always referred to as silver. Silvery as the moonlight, pale silver, silvery, and so I never saw her as a blonde. I saw her as having just like real pale silvery hair. Walter Goggins, his name is Mike, sorry. Mike in this novel he always gives these like oriental comments to her. Like, he says her eyes are exotic and almond shaped and slanted, and have a oriental look. And this was the 90s, so like, let it go. I know what you're saying. That's a very outdated term. It was the 90s. It was the only way they could describe it back then, I guess. It's always fun to look back on like how far we've come. But anyways, and he says, like, when he first meets Meg, he thinks that she is from an Eastern Asian country. He says Oriental, but y'all know what I mean. And so I was picturing, also he says like he can't really put a finger on where she's from. Like she's got blue green eyes, but looks of Eastern Asian descent, and then has silver hair. And so he's kind of like, where the fuck this girl from? So I casted, and I'm going to mispronounce it, because if you can obviously I'm going to mispronounce a lot of names that are not American, but I believe it's Zhang Ziyi. She played Sayuri in Memoirs of a Geisha. She played in Rush Hour 2. You've seen her in, she's in a lot of movies from the 90s and 2000s. Amazing actress. You know, learned all of Memoirs of a Geisha phonetically. Amazing. But because she's comfortable with blue contacts from that movie, I was like, obviously she would play Meg because she's comfortable in a blue contact for an entire movie production. And she has this, I think she could pull off this ethically ambiguous, mystical kind of creature. This woman that everybody's like, what is she? Where is she from? What? I think she could pull it off. So Zhang Ziyi and Walter Goggins are my picks for this movie. Comment below who y'all would cast after we get to know them a little more. Now, Joanna Haley does not have a picture on the internet that I could find and confirm that it was Joanna Haley. We've had that happen before. You know, some pictures pop up, but if I cannot 100% or at least 90% confirm that is that person, I'm not going to pull some fucking stranger's picture up on here and be like, she looks like she works at Joanne Fabrics, you know. But Joanna Haley, I think I looked at what she's written. She's written a lot of like out there fantasy novels, mermaids, goddesses, Pegasi. What is plural for Pegasus? Pegasi. Anyways, a lot of fantastical elements. And so I definitely, Joanna Haley, she's probably a lot like us. You know, she is a woman in the 90s. She probably loves Splash. Little Mermaid just came out a few years before this was written. You got mermaid Barbies left and right. She was like probably watching her daughter play with like the bubbling fountain mermaid. Or no, wait, this was after that. Okay, she probably saw her daughter playing with what would become before. This was made in 1994. What were the mermaid Barbies for 1994? Anyways, probably saw her daughter playing with Little Mermaid Barbie. And she was just listlessly just like, what if I was a mermaid? What if there was a mermaid out there and she met a sea captain and an adventure started? And then she wrote this novel and we're here talking about it today. She has a great imagination. Now, much like Miss Penelope Neri, she put a lot of work into pirating history. I didn't know what the fuck she was talking about in this novel. So many chapters were pirate teen. I have some excerpts that I will read to y'all of just how confusing it was, of just like the words, a lot of pirating political drama. So if y'all are into pirating and like seafaring in ye old days, book for you. Book for you. Disclaimers before we get started. I always like to give these. Hey, not a professional voice actress. Don't come for me. We're having a good time here. We don't take this seriously. We're just having fun as if y'all were sitting here in my parlor and I was like, let me tell y'all about this. Of which, y'all, I know this is my calling because I recapped like the first 3 Final Destination movies to my stepson this summer because we saw the finality of Final Destinations coming out. And he was like, what are those movies? And me and my husband were like, oh my God. Like, there was a dental office and then this boy, you know, he went and chased some pigeons and a glass pane fell on him and he probably had the best death because at least he saw some pigeons. And I just recapped like the first 3 to him and I was like, this is why I do this, y'all. I'm good at telling the short and narrow of a good story. At least I try. I am not a professional. We're just having a good time here. Trigger warnings. I mean, it's a pirate novel. People are going to get shot. And that's about it. There's luckily no sexual assaults in this novel. So that's good. I know our last mermaid novel was a little rough. This one is a lot lighter, I promise. And yeah, like I said, if the audio's messing up, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. I'm trying. Know that I'm trying. Y'all. I'm trying. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get in this novel, because I know I'm going to talk probably for a long time about it. And because I don't have the physical novel in my hand, I have like my notes that I write. And then I had to, for the quotes and the lines that I wanted to recap, I had to, y'all listen to this bullshit before I get into this. So I got my new desktop and I put on, like, I clicked Microsoft Word. What's the deal with you have to now have a subscription to Microsoft Word? What is that? I thought that just came on computers. Why do I have to subscribe to my... And I'm not. So, but they'll let you go on Microsoft, like a Google document, and do it on there for free. So I did. And so I had to like copy paste and type a lot of these lines. And so I've got the old iPad here to do my lines. And then I've got my notebook. So we're ready. Now, this is Sea Treasure. This is Sea Treasure by Joanna Haley. It was made in 1994. Now, we have a poem entry. I love when a novel comes up, with a poem first. Since once I sat upon a promontory and heard a mermaid on a dolphin's back uttering such dulcet and harmonious breath that the rude sea grew civil at her song, and certain stars shot madly from their spears to hear the sea maid's music, a midsummer's night's dream. Now we open with November 1747. Antigua? This all kind of takes place in the Caribbean. Cliffs over a sea, crashing, big waves. You know the scene. Looking out to the ocean. And we have our Meg. And she sees a storm coming. And now Meg again has silver waist-length hair, very willowy. I mean, she looks like a wild child. She wears this like really thin nightgown, like almost the whole book, because it's like the only clothes she has for her human form. Just imagine this like mythical creature standing on the cliffside looking at the ocean and seeing a storm coming in. She goes to observe rich people that come to the island. I think this is, like I said, Jamaica kind of time. A lot of Great Britain like crews coming in and out, all of that stuff. And so she likes to observe the rich people. She's observing this first few pages. We get the backstory of a discussion with a man called Logan Tharp, who we will refer to as Tharp the whole novel, his wife Clarissa, and her father. And they are discussing a Captain Glenn Morgan. He has apparently come back from the dead. They thought that he was dead. That was a stupid way of saying that. But anyways, they thought that he was dead. He is apparently not dead, and he has been pardoned by the king for some crimes. And they are freaking out because they killed his dad. And there are letters apparently missing that prove that. Because back in the day, apparently you wrote down everything. And so they're panicking, going, oh my God, we have to find those letters. And Meg lives with her human grandfather. Now, we will get into Meg's family tree later. But she lives only with this old man, grandfather. And she kind of tells him what she saw. And we have this. Why do they do such a thing? Why is of no importance, he answered curtly. Have you heard nothing of what I've said? They mean to kill this man, to lure him into a trap and then murder him. One excuse is as good as another to those who think of nothing of killing. Meg frowned, troubled and perplexed. I have seen sharks turn and kill those of their own kind who are wounded or ill, she persisted. It was obvious the old men had meant that to be the end of the discussion. But they are not creatures of great intelligence, and nor do I think it is evil for them to do only as their natures would dictate. With the whales, it is different. Whales will even protect and call encouragement to another whale in need, Are men less than whales and more of kindred with sharks? Men are neither fish nor whale, the old man replied darkly. Man alone of God's creatures has been cursed with the ability to distinguish good from evil, and thus only a man is capable of observing his own nature, sinking below it, which is more often the case. And that is why I want you to promise you will not go back to that place again. Meg's having her Ariel moment of like hearing these people plot to kill this Captain Glenn Morgan and being like, but sharks do that and whales don't. Like, what? As she is walking around the island, she sees a small boat with a man in it sneakily arrive in this small kind of offset harbor. And she knows, because she's a mermaid and a woman, we have good intuition. She's like, I bet that's that Captain Glenn Morgan. Now, I'm going to call him Mike throughout the whole novel, but he is Captain Michael Glenn Morgan. We're going to call him Mike. She wants to warn him, but her sacred vows stop her, and it doesn't really explain what those vows are. And she kind of does this thing of like, oh, but my parents are evidence of that, of her sacred vows that she must keep. And you're just kind of like, what happened to your parents? What sacred vows? What is happening? And here we have this explanation a little bit. She sat up, a fixed expression on her lovely face. She came of a strong and peace-loving people who valued goodness in life above all else. Wasn't it a greater wrong to do nothing than to risk breaking the old structures? Even if she dared not show herself, was she not gifted with other means of helping this man? She rose to her feet and with hands that trembled slightly, lifted the circular gemstone that hung on a chain around her neck. Its surface, transparent and smooth as glass, reflected the image of her face. The words of the old ones came easily to her lips as she gazed into the stone, like the clear blue-green depths of her eyes, and began to sing. So, singing is canon in this novel for mermaiding. I know some mermaids sing casually, like Ariel. Some do it to kill, like the ones in Pirates of the Caribbean. This one, we will see what her singing does. Captain Michael... Mike is 28. He had a thing with Clarissa. So know that, because that's going to be a huge plot point, is him and Clarissa kind of had like a romance. And he is thumbing a gold locket. Everybody's got a cute little necklace in this novel. And inside this locket is a picture of Clarissa from 7 years ago. He has been gone for 7 years. Remember, like, you read some of these old novels and they're just like, oh my God, I haven't seen him in 3 years. And I'm like, 3 years and you're still pining? Wow. Like, when I was dating, like, if me and a guy didn't hit it off in like a month, it was kind of like, okay, next. I can't imagine like pining for 3 years. My attention span could never. He meets Clarissa. Mike meets Clarissa. She gives some sob story, but Mike knows better, okay? And he says, my poor Clarissa, 3 whole months you waited, and then you sought solace for your grief in the arms of a man like Tharp. His fingers bit into her flesh. She nearly winced with pain. I suppose to some that might seem an eternity of suffering. So Walter Goggins here. Sorry, I just see Walter Goggins in this, not like this part. He's holding Clarissa. He's nibbling at her flesh, flirting with her. And she's like, oh, Michael, I waited for you, but I just couldn't. And he's like, oh, 3 months before you got married. You know, like he was gone. And then 3 months later, she went and got married to like the worst man for her to marry in this situation. And he's like, wow, you must have really suffered, honey. This novel has a lot of political back and forth, land deeds, plantations, money being exchanged, political intrigue. It's a lot. I'm not going to bog down the story with it, but just a rough overview. Like, I read the book and I was still kind of like, okay, what? Who did what? Clarissa's dad and Mike's dad were like best friends, closer than brothers. But Clarissa's dad fucked Mike's dad over. And then Mike's dad, quote unquote, committed suicide. And Mike says that Logan Tharp, Clarissa's husband, hounded his dad to death over debts. It's a lot off the cuff. Like, this is literally like chapter 2. And you're just kind of like, okay. Don't think too heavy on it, y'all. There's more to this novel than like that shit. But that's kind of like what's going on. He kisses Clarissa and argues with her and kind of like breaks it off for good. He's just like, I just came back to call you a bitch and a cunt. I'll see you later. And she pulls a gun out and shoots him. Again, chapter 2. She pulls a gun out, shoots his ass. He falls into the ocean. What do you think happens? His senses stunned and lungs bursting, he felt himself sinking into the watery depths and could not help himself to darkness. Thick and velvety was closing in on him when he thought he imagined the strong grip of hands on his shirt dragging him upward. A face floated before his eyes, the exquisite face of an angel, grimly determined. He was dreaming, he thought, and filled with a strange sort of contentment. He gave himself up to the waiting darkness. So we're kind of having a little mermaid moment. She's rescuing her man. And we open to chapter 3. Grandfather and Meg have Mike in their hut, their little island hut. And she doesn't want to leave his side. She's kind of like, again, a little Ariel moment. These mermaids are fascinated with human men. Couldn't be me. But I guess if I saw a merman, I would be fascinated and like, oh my God, I can't leave. Oh, to those who play Love in Deep Space, sorry, side tangent, skip ahead 15 seconds if you don't give a fuck. To those who play Love in Deep Space, as a Raphael girly, that was in this game, y'all. There's a character called Raphael, and he is a sea god, and he's always referred to as a merman. But we've never seen his mermaid form. And they recently released a event where he's a mermaid. Look at that. Oh my God. And it was on my birthday month. It's like they knew. If I saw a merman, I would have the same. I'd be like, I'm not leaving. He needs me. Somebody has to sponge his tail. So I get it. Her and grandfather argue. She leaves because he's like, you've got to go and restore your strength. Go. I've got him. Go. And she's like, fine. And Mike kind of is in and out of this, and he notices that this old man, his name is Pippin, Joseph Pippin. And he noticed that Joseph has like whip marks on his back and he has a lot of books. And he's like, this is not an average old man in the Caribbean living in a hut. This is somebody, but who? Who is Joseph Pippin? Who is Grandpapa? The locket that Mike wore with Clarissa's picture saved him from the bullet that Clarissa shot him with. Okay. Of which I'm kind of like, how big was the locket? How good was her? Like, that is insanely a close shot. And Mike is constantly wanting to know where the woman who saved him is. He's like, hey, old man, where's that girl at? Where's that girl at? And the old man is like, let it go. Don't even ask. Like, she comes and goes as she pleases. She is more than you could ever understand. Let it go. Like, the old man is like, don't even. Okay. I feel like the old man is the equivalent of like when your kid brings home like a kitten they've saved and you're just like, no, we're not keeping the kitten. No. And they're like, but I got it. Like, Mike is Meg's kitten. She's like, but I saved it. Please, grandfather. And he's like, no. And then the kitten's meowing for the, like, where's my mommy? And you're just like, fuck. Now I've got this guy in my hut. Mike dreams of Clarissa. Ew. They have a very complicated toxic relationship. We've all been there. I can't blame him. He's dreaming of Clarissa, and in the dream, as he's holding her, she tells him a warning. Not a super serious one, but she's like, hey, watch out. And he wakes up, obviously leaves, like no one's home. And he's like, all right, I'm getting out of here. And as he's still wounded, he still got shot in like the fucking 1700s. But he's like, surely if I move around, that'll help. Get the blood flowing. And so he's walking around this island. And of course, rogue pirates attack him. Man can't catch a break. He makes one of the rogues, like obviously this is Michael Glenn Morgan pirate at large, and he's great at fighting, even if he got shot a few days ago. And he makes one of the rogues take him to their hideout. He's like, take me to your leader now. And so they go, and there is another pirate called Drago. And okay, so much, y'all. And I don't want to bog down the story with this. Drago wants the treasure that was on the ship that Mike's dad was on when he was killed and it sunk. Apparently, a lot of booty was on that ship and he wants it. And he thinks that Mike got the treasure off of the ship before it sunk. It's a lot. These men. Okay. But as Mike is scouting this hideout and listening to Drago's monologue of what he's doing, he sees that Meg has been captured and Drago has her, but this is also the first time he's seeing Meg. So we have this description, okay? Bathed in moonlight, the girl, Meg, stood revealed to him at last. No doubt it was only an illusion occasioned by a lightheadedness and the peculiar lucency of the night itself that made her resemble an ethereal creature from some other world. Mentally, he pinched himself. In sunlight, she would not look all silvery, as if she had been wrought from the moonbeams by magic. She would appear simply what she was, a girl of flesh and blood, standing tall with defiance to hide the fear in her heart. Aye, it was in every line of her proud bearing, courage and strength, and a woman's vulnerability. He had convinced himself he had only dreamed the existence of the sea maiden who had drawn up from the depths of the sea. But here she was, dressed in the same loose-fitting gown she had worn the day she had vanished from his life. She had the high-boned cheeks and determined chin, which were reminiscent of her grandfather, but the long straight nose and wide full lips were peculiarly her own, as was her hair shimmering in the moonlight. Had she been a man, she would have been considered tall, but for a woman, she was of Juno-esque proportions. Indeed, he had judged that his own considerable height would top hers only by a few inches or so. Still, there was nothing masculine in her willowy slenderness of a woman's body, made alluring with soft, feminine curves, only imperfectly concealed beneath the thin white fabric of the dress. In spite of himself, he felt his loins stir. Long-limbed and lithe as a dancer, she was a woman who could arouse men to lust without even trying. Yay for a tall girl! Tall girls rise up! Yay! I love to see tall girls in these novels. We are a demographic that is always ignored. But yes, she is tall, she's athletic, she's willowy, she has proportions that are not easily kind of placed, with like her facial structure and features. Silvery hair, very giving Last Unicorn kind of vibes, if you will. We learn that Drago also has grandfather, Pippin. And Pippin is really Pippin Belding, a famous pirate who incited mutiny on the ship Mike's dad was killed and has all the treasure. It's, again, to have a red thread and show the drama of this novel, it's insane. Before one of the henchmen, though, can reveal Meg's mermaid identity, grandfather shoots him. Drago knows there was treasure on the Argonaut. And so in order to get the grandfather to talk, or to get Meg to talk about like the treasure or something, he starts torturing Meg. Nothing graphic. He just kind of rough handles her, grabs her by her hair, shakes her up. That is when Mike reveals himself. They fight, pirate fight. Like, there's a lot of pirate fights in this novel, beautifully described. I'm just going to say pirate fight, okay? Because this is going to go on for a while. Pirate fight, obviously. Meg reveals where the treasure is. It's at the bottom of the sea. Great. Mike allows Drago to live because they're both pirates, and there's some kind of pirate code in this novel, there's no like justice system. Like, pirates do whatever they want and kill whoever they want. There's not like a sense of justice of like, there's no such thing as a good pirate. And so he doesn't kill Drago because he's like, look, we're both kind of like breaking the law constantly. I'll let you slide this time. Just let me have the girl and the grandfather. And Drago's like, okay. You killed some of my henchmen, but okay. Mike gets to talk to Meg. And although she's beautiful, her grandfather was on the ship and incited the mutiny that ruined Mike's dad's, and caused him to commit suicide. So he's not super keen on Meg. And we have this kind of thing. She was a woman, and incredible as it may seem, the granddaughter of the man who, in instigating the mutiny of the Argonauts, had played no small part in ruining Glenmorgan's father. No doubt she was steeped in artifice and intrigue as she was enshrouded in mystery, he told himself. Well, she would soon see that her game, whatever it was, would not work on him. He would have the truth from her, and he would have it now. A startled cry burst from the girl's lips as his fingers closed ruthlessly on her arms. So it is you, alive and unharmed, the captain uttered darkly. And what price did you pay for our deliverance? Did you give Drago what he wanted? Tell me, Meg. Did you give him the gold? And so he thinks I don't know. I read this 2 weeks ago. But he's interrogating Meg because he thinks, I don't know. I don't want to harbor too much on it. He thinks Meg, and her grandfather aren't good people and they, helped ruin his dad. I don't know, some bullshit. Meg is, of course, a mermaid. She doesn't understand what the fuck he's talking about. She doesn't even know what the word bluff means. She's like, what? What's a bluff? What are you talking about? Listen to me, Meg. If you and that old man had made a deal with Drago, our lives for the treasure, then you're playing a fool's game. I know Drago. You can't trust him. He'd sell his soul for that much gold. At last, Meg's face brightened with understanding. He didn't know about Drago. He thought they were still in danger. No, Captain, she said impulsively. You are wrong. The pirate ship is gone. Don't you see? It was Drago who brought you here. He said since there was no profit to be gained, he saw little point in killing us. And besides, he could not easily dispatch a man whose exploits served so greatly to entertain him. She paused, her brow wrinkling in a frown. What a strange thing for him to say. I think you surprised him when you spared his life. Is it possible that a man of such brutality could be yet capable of acting with generosity? Grandfather didn't think so. He said it was a matter of honor among thieves. Glenmorgan stared at her as if he hadn't heard her right. Meg felt the blood grow suddenly warm in her cheeks. Little knowing what else to do, she stared frankly back until at last a rueful bark of laughter seemed torn from the captain. Abruptly he released her. Honor among thieves, he muttered gruffly. No doubt your grandfather's right. Grandfather is away, quote unquote, fishing. Why? And Mike's kind of like, why would he leave Meg with a pirate? Why would he leave his granddaughter with a pirate? Is this man insane? I could hurt her. Meg reveals her and her grandfather are quote unquote fugitives. And Meg is confused because this man, this Mike, is more repelled by her than, because all her life her people have told her, you can't fuck with land people. They're going to fall for you. We're just too gorgeous. We're just too beautiful. Land people can't resist us. And she's like, this man hates me. He leaves the room when I show up. I don't think they're accurate. And I love this. Mike tries to kick her out of her own home. He's standing there still kind of wounded and stuff. And he's like, get out, baby Billy, Walter Goggins, get out, get the hell out. And she's like, this is my house. No. She tries to hit him. And because this is a romance novel, they kiss. He kisses her, hoping it will disgust her and keep her away from pirates. She raises her hand to hit him. He grabs it, kisses her in order to make her scared of pirates. Girl, I will kiss the shit out of you. Stay away from me. But it doesn't work. She likes it. It awakens something in her core. And she's like, absolutely. Absolutely. And we have our first sex scene. Now, here's our Patreon plug. I have a Patreon. Link is everywhere. On my Instagram at mldavid15. It's on here. Everywhere. On the Patreon, real quick, we cover steamy scenes. So all of the sex scenes in these novels and others, we cover on the Patreon at the $3 level, I think. At the $5 level, we recap a movie for the month. And this month's movie, I hope, is... Okay, it has like 3 titles. I know it as Killer Mermaid, but it's also called like La Siren and some other thing. It's like a Scandinavian horror movie about a killer mermaid. I watched it randomly one day, like 8 years ago, and I've never forgotten it. And since we covered such a fun mermaid movie last month, I thought we could do a crazy, like, creepy, like, it's not even that. It's a foreign horror film, like a Scandinavian killer mermaid horror film. It's wild. We're going to cover that. And that's, I think, at the $5 level. And then at the $7 level, we have Sunday Stories. Last month, we covered a true crime story. This month, y'all, it's going to be a little different. For those who are in the Paperback Patrol $7 level. If you've been on my Instagram, you've known this. I have been consumed with the Titan Submersible documentaries, like the 2 that came out, one on HBO, one on Netflix. When it happened, I was consumed with it, but now it like reinvigorated me. And of course, it just dived me back into the Titanic. And so I've been in a huge Titan Submersible Titanic hyperfixation this summer. And so my Sunday Stories this month is just going to be me releasing that information and those opinions so I have a place to contain them. So whenever someone's like, hey, Montana, what'd you think about that Titan Submersible? What do you think about the Titanic? I'll be like, please go to this, hour-long rant on my Patreon. But I have very strong opinions and very fun facts. I was telling like my best friends some of the research I found, and they were like, I never knew that. I'm like, I know. We've had so much more information come out since both of these tragedies occurred. Fascinating. I watched, like a few weeks ago, I watched a in real time sinking of the Titanic simulation on YouTube for 3 hours. And Cody was like, you won't watch a movie because you get bored out of your mind and you can't sit still. But you will sit on the couch and watch a 3 hour, and watch, not do something else and look up, but like I steadily watched a 3 hour long Titanic sinking because it had fun facts. It had fun, like a pop-up video on MTV. It had real time, like what was happening. It was fascinating. I loved it. Please go to the Patreon if you want more content. But y'all, I will give y'all this. As he consummates their lovemaking, keep in mind she's losing her virginity to this man. He says Clarissa's name. Audio listeners, my hands are in the air. To lose your virginity and have them call out another woman's name? Are you fucking kidding? Drown him. Take him to the ocean and drown him. Immediately drown. What the fuck? Of course Meg panics, because when mermaids have sex, it's like a mating thing. It's like swans and stuff. Like they do it one time to one person. And she's panicking because she gave her quote unquote gift to him. And then she recalls her mother. And she's like, I have to break Clarissa's hold on Mike. That's what I must do. As she leaves, he looks at the bed and sees obviously her blood. And he's like, oh my God, she was a virgin? He didn't know because, and I quote, he says, no virgin could be so eager. Which is also in the Splash movie. Like Madison in the Splash movie was all over Tom Hanks. She was a horny, horny little girl. Not little girl, little woman. Daryl Hannah in that movie was a very horny mermaid. Which I guess like if we turned into mermaids for a day, we would try to do it a lot too. But mermaids are very horny. Anyways, he sees her blood and he's like, oh fuck. That was her first time. Meg is mulling over the whole thing, and as mermaids do, she jumps into the water, and this is where we get kind of her mermaid form. No sooner had the water closed over her that she felt the familiar shock of change, like an electrical current shooting down her backbone, extending her spine, fusing her body from the waist down into a single unit of supple strength. She drew in deep draughts of seawater, her altered lungs extracting oxygen from the water as easily as they had done from the air. Her sluggish heart quickened. Revitalizing energy flowed through her veins. Her weariness dropped away. She felt powerful and wondrously clear-headed, no longer doubtful as to who or what she was. She was Meg, and she was home. The metamorphosis was complete. She was as she's meant to be, a creature of the sea, neither fish nor human, but Dianoin. Y'all, this word Dainaon. Day known. Don't come for me, okay? I can barely speak English. Something of both. A marvelous silvery green tail had taken the place of her land legs, and pulsating within her were the magical powers bequeathed to her by the sea-dwelling ancestors. So again, the cover showed this blonde, Helen Hunt looking blue-tailed mermaid. And in this novel, we have this very tall, willowy, alien looking, woman with silver waist-length hair and a green tail. This sounds beautiful. Why didn't we get that on the cover? We get kind of her backstory of her people. And in short, it's very Atlantean, okay? Her people could transform into human. They could transform into mermaids. Their songs were how they transformed and controlled weather and stuff. And they can turn into humans and like walk around, but they can never leave the vicinity of the sea. They have to be close. Her mother's name was Sheila, and Sheila was a mermaid. And Sheila did the one thing you're not supposed to do as a mermaid. She fell in love with a land person. And you're not supposed to do that because land people will keep you away from the sea and it will kill you. Her mom fell in love with her dad, and it's said that it said that Meg didn't perform the final act of mating for these people with Mike. Like, apparently it's a process, and she didn't perform the final one. And so, okay, I'm going to skip ahead and just kind of explain it to you because I know some of y'all are like, what are you saying? So, these mermaids, when they have their mating ritual, they sing to each other and like swim around, and the singing is their sex. And there's different levels to it, kind of like sex in human life. Like, there's different levels. You're not just going to jump into some and not the others. And so when they do the songs, they literally become like life mates, and their bodies and their minds and their spirits are connected. Like, she can feel what he's thinking. He could feel what she's thinking. When one hurts, the other hurts. They can't literally be physically apart from each other. They are literally one entity. But when she had sex with Mike, she just gave her half to him. She didn't get his half. And so now she's kind of fucked because she can hear what he's thinking. When she's away from him physically, it hurts her, sucks her life force away. And she's so fucking screwed. So screwed. We learn that her civilization is, again, very Atlantean. They're all dead because their sea god gave them this amazing gift of song that can like change the weather and communicate with animals and stuff. But like the Atlanteans, they got too high for their britches, and they started using it to conquer people and to kill people. They were using it as a weapon. And so the sea god caused an avalanche, killed them all but Sheila and little Meg, because Sheila was with a land person. So her romance kind of saved her. She is now bound to Mike forever. Fuck. But she refuses to pine like her mom did and die. She's like, I'm not going to sit here and pine away and die like my mom did. Because remember, they're tied like life force. And so Sheila loved Meg's dad, but I'll go ahead and spoil this. But Meg's dad died, and she didn't have her life mate. And so she just withered up and died too. It's such a fucked up thing. It's insane. What living creature would ever do? I'm so glad humans are not like that. That sounds awful. Mike, we jump back to Mike, and Mike's reminiscing on Meg. And again, we have him talking about her exotic eyes. However, they were a different, like they're blue and green. And he's like, that's kind of weird. And he says she's so strong and tall and muscular, which is so different than the ladies of luxury that he is used to. Mike is walking around the island and he comes across a beautiful little lagoon. I mean, beautiful. And he immediately feels like a prickling sensation in his neck, of which I was like, okay, maybe some of her life force got in there during that sex. Because he's kind of like, I feel like Meg hangs out here. He's like, I don't know why I feel this way, but I feel like Meg hangs out here. And I'm kind of like, okay, maybe a little got in him. He makes coconut torches out of driftwood, and like the whole process is actually really fascinating. He does a lot of stuff on this island that, again, Joanna Haley was a lot like Penelope Neri, very heavily researched, very accurate, did their research. Like, it wasn't like he got a piece of driftwood and made a torch, you know, to walk around. He literally, like, the whole process of like destroying coconuts and making the husk and using this, and it was very fascinating. He finds a grotto. We love a grotto. It's underground in a cave and you have to go through water to get to it. But the top of the ceiling is tree roots from the trees above. And then the bottom is volcanic rock. And I'm like, wow, that sounds cozy. And I'm not saying that in a sarcastic way. It sounds beautiful. Like a tree root walls in a tree above you. And then the rest is like this dark volcanic rock. Sounds so nice for a mermaid. He finds like a vanity and chairs and stuff. And he's like, I think I found like Meg's little clubhouse, home away from home, if you will. And we kind of have a reverse Tarzan romance blooming between these two. We have this, you know, human versus this wild creature that just kind of like pokes around the rocks and is very scared and flighty. Meg, exclaimed Glenn Morgan, coming quickly to his feet. Where the devil have you been? I've been looking for you. Have you? Meg suffered an involuntary pang at the sight of the tall, muscular figure clad only in breeches. How good he looked. She had to remind herself firmly of the vow she had sworn so she would not forget the captain must be allowed to return to his own world without any interference from her. Besides, she told herself grudgingly, the only thing he wanted from her was the Spanish gold from the Argonauts. Why? She shrugged. Her first quick surge of joy at seeing him effectively squelched at the bleak reminder. Glenn Morgan's lips curled in a wide grin. Obviously, she was not disposed to make things easy for him. "'Cause I was worried about you," he answered. "Why do you think? You shouldn't run away like that." Frowning, Meg sat down and folding her knees to her chest, propped her chin on them. "I see," she said. "You mean it was rude of me. I suppose it was. Do you expect me to apologize? I warn you, I don't think I will." "No?" Glenn Morgan swallowed his impatience. "Then you may be sure I won't expect it of you," he answered dryly. "Perhaps, however, it would not be too much to ask you to come down from there." He spread his hands in front of him. "Simply that I may see for yourself that you're all right." Meg stared doubtfully at him. She would not be fooled into believing he had really been concerned about her. "I assure you, I'm perfectly fine," she replied, as if she could not imagine why he would think otherwise. "But you won't be for long if you try to go back the way you came. In a matter of minutes, the tunnel will be flooded and the chamber along with it." Glenn Morgan glanced down, made suddenly aware that the water, rising rapidly, was already level with the ledge on which he stood. He had put it off for far too long. The tide had turned. "You're right. I'll never make it that way," he said, not greatly displeased at being spared the necessity of traversing the tunnel in the dark. "Well, then, I guess I'll have to come to you." Meg could not quite subdue the quickening of her pulse as she watched him climb effortlessly towards her. Powerful and light on his feet, he moved with an easy, supple grace that sent a thrill of excitement through her. She is so into him. We have another excerpt. They're kind of just in this cave talking, sorry. "Meg," he said simply. Then finding himself curiously lost at words, he squeezed her fingers and smiled. "I'm sorry if I've intruded where I had no right to be. I had no idea what lay at the end of this tunnel. If I had, You wouldn't have come?" she interrupted. Nervously, she pulled her hand free. It's all right. I was the gold you were after. Glenmorgan gave an impatient gesture. Well, yeah, it was the gold. I won't deny that I'd hoped to find it here. No. How could you? Her laugh sounded unnatural in the brooding stillness of the cave. But you didn't find it, she observed in a brittle voice. How very disappointed you must have been. Instead of treasure, you only found me. Damn it, Meg, I was worried sick about you. Feigning indifference, Meg shrugged. I suppose you were. She frowned, as if giving the matter her serious consideration. It must have been extremely unsettling when you thought I might not come back. With my grandfather gone, I'm the only link to the Argonaut after all. Meg's heart nearly stopped at the grim flash of his eyes. The gold had nothing to do with how I felt, he said. But you're right to hold what happened against me. His lips curled cynically. Hard as it may be for you to believe, I don't make it a practice to bed young, inexperienced girls. Not even for gold. Meg, I never meant for it to go so far. The last thing I wanted was to hurt you. Meg stared at him, unable to believe her ears. He thought she had been hurt because he made love to her? No. Worse, he thought of her as a child too young to be made love to. How dare he? She would show him that he understood nothing about her. Does that mean you don't want to know where it is? She asked. Are you going to tell me you are no longer interested in the gold? The muscle leaped along the hard line of Glenmorgan's jaw. I didn't say that. She wants him to want her. And then he wants the gold and her. Ugh. They call it all off, the fighting, and they head out, and Mike wants food. Creole food, to be specific. She's never had it. She don't know what he's talking about. Like, he's naming all these foods, and they sound delicious from the descriptions. But anyways, he's walking around the island with her, gathering food, and she is amazed at what he can make food out of on the island. Keep in mind, she's a mermaid. She's like, I didn't even know those roots were edible. Like, I don't know. And as he's doing this, he gives back like some childhood stuff. He was in Carolina. The family business was in shipping. He always wanted to be on the ships. He always wanted to be with his dad, like at the harbors. That's where he got his love of the sea. They forage for dinner. She won't eat fish, which he finds weird, but whatever. He finds it weird, but he's kind of like, whatever. And he notices he's never seen her eat. And he's like, do you eat anything? They cuddle by the fire in silence. He buries the food to cook in the sand, and that is a real technique. Like, you make a big hole in the sand and you wrap your food up and it cooks in the sand. Again, the information of just living on an island in this book is insanely accurate. She reminded him of a precocious child, and yet not a child, he decided, keenly aware of her woman's body beneath the clinging gown. I don't like that. I don't, and that's so pre-modern era of like this, I won't say it goes so far as Lolita, but this, what was the Emma Stone movie, The Pretty Things or whatever it was, where you have this childlike woman and it's like, why do you want her to be that childlike? Like, I understand some whimsy. I love a golden retriever boy. They're my favorites. That's only my type. But at the same time, they have to be like grown. And I feel like the reverse of that is like, okay, you want some whimsy in your woman, but let's not make her childlike, okay? Let's not make this like a daddy situation. He hands her a sweet potato that was cooking, and she immediately bites the damn thing, burns her mouth, starts crying. We've all been there. You did that on purpose, she gasped, staring accusingly at him with watery eyes. Don't be a fool, he retorted. Any child knows you don't eat a potato before it cools. Angry with himself for not having foreseen and thus prevented what had happened, he drove the knife into the sand. Meg swallowed and blinked her tears away. I didn't, she said quietly. Glenmorgan, sensing a slight tremor in her voice, glanced sharply up at her. Expecting to see tears, he was startled to find himself staring into green eyes, shimmering with barely surprised mirth. Their glances locked in sudden mutual understanding. The next instant, they both burst out into laughter. You love to see it. I love seeing that. Like, she bit into this potato, burn her mouth, and he's like, girl, what are you doing? A child knows that. And she's like, well, I didn't. And then they just laugh. Like, I love to see good chemistry. Meg realizes on this kind of like little date with him and spending time with Mike how lonely she has been her whole life. She has never had a companion outside of her grandfather. And she's like, oh my God. I could see now like why someone would die from losing this. Even though when she learned how to like control her metamorphosis, her mom wouldn't let her play with the kids on the island. Like, she was so lonely. It is said that the greatest gift that the sea god gave her people with their singing ability, like they could sing storms in, they could sing great. But the greatest one was to disrupt bonds of energy and matter. So I thought that was interesting. Like, their song could literally break apart, like cause a big bang. And like, that's why the sea god was like, too much. My creation did too much. Destroy all of it. Her and Mike, of course, argue because he feels responsible for her since he took her virginity. And he's like kind of pussyfooting around the idea of getting married because this was the 1700s, y'all. And he's like, look, I'm not going to just like hit it and quit it. Like, I guess we can, and because she's not fucking dumb and she's not a child. She's like, what, Mike? And get married? Is that what you want to do? You want to get married? Because you think that you took my virginity? I don't fucking care. Like, she kind of does this huge thing of like, I don't care what humans and what your society does. She says it as like, he sees her kind of as just a hermit, not as a mermaid. And so he understands when she's talking about like, your society and what your people do is very different than what I care about. He sees it as her just being like off of the grid, not literally a mermaid. So when she's like, I don't care what your society does, I don't want to marry you just because we fucked one time. Then Mike thinks that she slept with him for money. She laughs at that. She's kind of like, do you see where I live? Obviously, money is not important to me. Grandfather shows back up. He says that there has been a bounty put on Mike's ship, the Raven, by Tharp from earlier in the novel, Clarissa's husband. Okay. So we have this triangle of like Mike and Meg obviously have a romance going, but then Mike and Clarissa also have their romance. And then Clarissa's husband, Tharp, hates Mike. That side killed Mike's dad over debts, all kinds of crazy shit. Now there's a bounty on Mike's ship, the Raven. And I love this when they're arguing about like the marriage and stuff. He says, what I want and don't want has nothing to do with it, he snapped. I've done things I'm not proud of, but I've never made it a practice to ruin innocent females. Haven't you? She queried to his amazement. What a shame. Personally, I found it not at all displeasing to be ruined by you. It's the prospect of marriage that troubles me. I don't think I should like being tied to a man who asked me to be his wife simply because he felt obligated to do it. Very likely, it would take all the enjoyment out of what caused him to marry me in the first place. And then where would we be? In such a case, I should much rather be ruined than wed. Wouldn't you? We love a feminist queen. She's literally like, I would just rather fuck you than get married to you. Please. She was ahead of the curve. Sometimes you need a mermaid to tell human society what's going on with the world. He keeps making excuses as to like why he can't really, like, he wants to marry. Okay, Mike is doing this huge like rigmarole of like, well, we got to get married, but like I'd be gone so much. And she's just like, yeah, you would. That's why I don't want to get married. And they have this fight. It's so hard to explain. Of he keeps saying the right thing to do is get married. And she's like, I don't want to. And then she finally is like, okay, I guess we'll just get married. You won't shut up about it. And he's like, well, actually, like, I have this thing and I have to constantly like go to the sea and you like, it would be so boring for you. And she's like, you're right. It would be boring. Let's not get married. And then he gets frustrated that she doesn't want to marry him. Like he can't be happy. However, they do consummate again. And through this anger and this fight. And so another Patreon exclusive for only $3, y'all. Only $3. Meg wakes up in his arms and she loves the feeling. And she kind of makes this thing of like mermaids can't cuddle because in the water, you don't have like the physical touch underwater. and she loves being on land and feeling like the skin on skin contact. I thought that was cute. We go into how mermaids have sex. They used vibrations and sounds, which sounds interesting. Here, let me give that. I was going to make it a Patreon exclusive, but I'm kind of like, oh, Montana, let them have the mermaid sex. I spoil y'all. Of course, she had never herself had seen or taken place in part of the love dance. She had only her mother's account, as it had been told to her by her mother, of the sensual fluidity of motion between male and female, the touching without touching, in which pulse waves transmitted from one to the other stimulated sensory organs within. It was a liquid stroking in which male and female approached, met, skimming past one another and back again in spiraling circles that grew smaller and smaller until at last they glided in slow, synchronous, intertwining swirls around and around each other. Their bodies, though never separated by more than an inch or two, never came in contact, and yet were linked in ever-heightening sensory arousal. As they became lost in the ritual of arousal, the lance swelled, gaining momentum, reaching toward an overpowering needed to achieve oneness. It was at the frenzied peak of physical desire that the final rite of the harem was initiated, only when they actually did touch, coming together to achieve mental and physical rapture in the ultimate joining of bodies and minds. So, imagine swirling around in the water, singing. I don't know what they're singing. What would you sing to have sex with somebody? Probably like, I don't know, like a sexy R&B song. I don't know, like a Whitney Houston song. Or like maybe Pony by Genuine. That would be fun. Like, what do you sing? What would you sing? What would be your mermaid singing song? What is the Conway Twitty song? Or what is it? Who sings Strokin'? That country song that's like stroking. My aunt has had that as her ringtone for her husband for far too long. It must be stopped. They are elderly. So yes, comment below what your mermaid mating song would be that you would sing as you swirl, 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 swirl. Kind of like snails. Snails swirl when they have sex. And then when you reach the peak of the chorus, grab them and it's just, and sorry if I just blew out your eardrums. But truly, that's probably how it is. Guess what? Meg and Mike fight about the gold again. It's always money. I tell you, if y'all aren't married, the one thing y'all are going to fight about with your spouse is money. It's always money. Either if you have it and someone's spending it, or you ain't got it and you want to spend it. The Raven arrives. Meg's gone. Meg has been away for 5 days. Mike is still at this hut, keep in mind. And she has been lugging the treasure from the Argonaut to the cave. And she's like, I don't get why humans like this gold. She's like, I don't get why this is so important. They're just little hard chips of disc. Like, they're not even pretty. Grandfather is at the hut with Mike, and Mike is trying to like be like, hey, I would like to marry Meg, but he explains just in legal terms. He's like, I understand she's a wild child, she ain't gonna be tamed, I get it, but for legality, I would like to give her the protection of my last name so that her reputation is not ruined and she has like some financial backing if anything happens to y'all, which is very nice. He's kind of like, look, she don't have to like be with me. She don't have to like me, but can I legally give her my name? Kind of like, remember Landis did with Kat in Golden Treasure or whatever that fucking movie or book was that we did. Meg, remember, has been away for a week. She's already dying. She cannot, because she gave this fucking gift to fucking Mike, she cannot be away from him. So she's like kind of dying. Grandpa recounts the mutiny on the ship that he supposedly caused. It's a long story, but kind of the gist that was important was that he didn't start it, but he's glad that he got arrested for it because it got him off the ship before it sunk. And he says that Meg's mom, Sheila, sunk the ship because of her broken heart. So, okay. We learn of the first mate on the Raven. His name is Dick Chapin. Okay. Mike has been miserable, just as Meg has. So again, maybe she gave him more of herself than she thought. Dick, Mike, and grandfather are all kind of arguing about like what to do next. What's their next step? And Meg shows up at the doorway and she's just like, well, I thought we were looking for gold. And they're like, oh shit, Meg. They'll let her dive for the gold if they do it privately. She's like, I don't want anyone around but me and my grandfather. And after they get the gold, they're going to have to flee. And so Mike's like, I guess y'all will have to come with us. I don't know. Grandfather and Meg talk. And he's like, why do you want Mike gone all the time? You obviously love him. What is the deal? Because this whole book, Meg is like, he's my life mate. I'll die without him. But all he wants is the gold. So fuck him. We see it every book. There is a shit ton of treasure down there. A lot of treasure at the bottom of the sea. And Mike's like, how the hell is she going to dive down there, pick it all up, and put it back on land for us to collect? And what she does is she carries the literal gold bars. She puts them in a net, helps her grandfather hoist them onto the ship, like their little dinghy, because they're doing this by themselves, because she has to be a mermaid to do it. Pulls it up. And then she goes back down, gets the chest that it was in, hauls that back up, and then they put the gold back in the chest. It takes days. And Mike makes the joke when he sees all the treasure that was collected in like a day. He's like, oh my God, Meg, you're not human. And she's like, what? Why would you say that? Why would you say I'm not human? I'm just really good at swimming. Don't you ever say that. And he also notices that she won't eat or drink. He says that it is an Oriental custom to not eat or drink in front of the enemy. And she's like, what? What are you talking about? Again, he thinks that she's like from some Eastern continent. And he's like, oh, it must be like an Asian thing. And she's like, what? Which I've had that happen to me before. If people be like, oh, that's such a redhead thing to do. And I'm like, what are you? No, I'm just a bitch. It has nothing to do with my hair. She gets drunk for the first time. They're celebrating getting some treasure. She flirts, nearly tells Mike that she's a mermaid. And as she's like about to kind of tell him like her backstory, men come aboard like shouting, and Mike like hits his head. And as he's like, oh my God, fuck, that hurt. And he looks down, Meg's asleep. She's just like me. Too much to drink. We're snoozing. We're not a party girl. We're snoozing. He carries her to her cot though, which is very nice. Meg, as she's kind of hungover, she's like, look, obviously I fucking love Mike and I'm his life mate. So I'm not going to sit here and wallow in self-pity. I'm going to help Mike get this treasure. I'm going to help my life mate succeed whether he likes it or not. And she's like, I'm going to love him. I'm going to follow my heart no matter where it leads me. And she feels a lot better about the situation for doing that. A few weeks have gone by. She has salvaged a ton of treasures. Excuse me. But Mike needs a secret box. He's like, I know you've brought up like 3 tons of treasure. Love that. Love you. If you could go back down there and find a secret box in a shipwreck, that would be so great. And she's like, sure. She hangs out with orcas, which I thought was weird because do orcas go down to like the Gulf of Mexico? I thought they were more like in the last book, like McCall, like they were up in Vancouver. Do they go to that warm up water? Anyway, she's hanging out with orcas. Apparently orcas and mermaids go way back. However, she is shot at and she, I think, gets grazed on the shoulder or something. And she must warn Mike. Pirates. She has to go warn the pirate. The pirates are coming. Giant pirate ship battle. Orcas help. You know, she's asking the orcas like, hey, can you risk your life to go help my boyfriend? And they're like, sure. We're not totally like threatened here. And so they go and help. And Mike, as he sees these orcas helping him, he catches a glimpse of silver in the water. And he's like, what the fuck was that? Was that a silver orca? Which I would be offended, like you thought I was the size of an orca. Wow. But as he's kind of sitting there like, what the fuck was that? Meg shows up at the entry of the ship. And so he's like, obviously it wasn't Meg. We have a K-drama, a Korean drama moment of him tending to her wound. In all K-dramas ever, there's always a wound tending scene. No one can doctor you up better than the male lead of a K-drama. I'm going to go to Korea and like twist my ankle and be like, oh, and watch. No one's going to help me. No one's going to doctor my foot. They can't necessarily fight this enemy. They can only outrun it. So they just hightail it out of there. As they are leaving, she makes Mike take her and her grandfather. She's like, you can't leave us on this island with this pirate ship. Like, you have to take us. And he's like, fine. She swims down to that shipwreck to find the secret box. And a dolphin scares the piss out of her. Because she's playing with dolphins. And then she's like, okay, I got to go to work. I got to go to work. Stop. I got to go to work. I got to go find this thing. And as she's like sneaking around this like shipwreck and it's really spooky, a stupid fucking dolphin jumps out. And she's like, oh my God, Leo, fuck off for like 5 seconds. Jesus. But as she falls back, which how do you fall back underwater? I don't know. Anyways, she stumbles underwater, hits her elbow on a secret compartment. She finds the secret box. It's a book-sized box. What does it contain? We don't know right now. Salt water is helping her gunshot wound. And her grandfather's like, you really should stay in your mermaid form because you heal quicker in it. Her and Mike fight. But, and I know what you're saying. Like, what do they fight about? Y'all, I'm trying to keep this as brief as possible because, like, I have so many more notes to go through. And I'm trying to not harp on every detail. Again, this is a recap. But her and Mike, they just fight, okay? Like, it's kind of like every one of these novels. These couples love to fight over the stupidest shit. But they fight. But then they also fuck. And we have another Patreon. We got a lot for the Patreon this month, okay? We got a lot for the Patreon. And Mike, through their lovemaking, he's like, this woman fucks the dog shit out of me. And she just swam for like 3 weeks straight to a shipwreck to get gold. Obviously, she loves me, which he's correct. He's not wrong. And so he's like, she just doesn't want me for my money. She isn't out to get me. Like, this woman obviously cherishes me, and he sees the sacrifice she's making. So we're like, yay. He's not oblivious to her literally risking her life for him. And he says she displayed all the characteristics of a woman in love except for one, her adamant refusal to marry him. And that he found with no little surprise. He was firmly resolved to overcome if, that is, they survived the next 48 hours. One thing was certain. He decided with a wry twist of the lips, with Meg at his side, his life would never be dull. She wakes up on the Raven, and remember, first mate Dick, he thanks her because he says, thank you for your, quote, dash of magic. Dick knows that she's a mermaid. But he's not going to tell. Dick's a nice guy. And he's just like, hey, I saw what you did over there. Thanks. Mike says they are sailing to drop this treasure off to the king to erase his father's debt. And he couldn't have done this without Meg. He's like, thank you. I couldn't have erased my dad's debt without this. Like, this means so much to me. Huge pirate fight, ships, cannons, all that stuff. Mike obviously tells Meg, hey, don't do anything. Meg does things. And y'all were wondering when I said there was a lot of pirate talk in this, and not like arg, but like just a lot of ship talk in this novel. And this is what I mean. You may load both batteries and prepare to run out, but you will run out only the larboard on my command. The starboard battery I want double shotted and left manned and ready. Do you understand? With any luck, Drago would be expecting him to take on the less formidable devilfish, and when he did, Drago would swing around the bows of his slower consort, and taking the windage would take the Raven's stern. While the devilfish fired to dismant the corvette with a chain shot, the Seahawk would overtake and disable Glenmorgan's foundering vessel with a single well-aimed broadside. At least that's what Glenmorgan hoped Drago was thinking. It's pages of that shit. It's a lot. I kind of skipped a lot of it. Crew hears Meg singing and they're like, yay, she's cheering for us. But she's singing and combing her hair and holding that gemstone, and black clouds and mist envelop the ship so much that Drago can't see them anymore. And so they're able to escape. And Dick's like, she did it. And Mike's like, what'd she do? They are trying to go to port, and she is put in actual women's clothes for once. And of course, everything is backward. Like these men give her like a hoop skirt and a corset and shoes. This woman's never worn any of that in her life. And of course, she comes out and everything's backwards. And she's like, this is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. And Mike and grandfather laugh at her because they're assholes. But Mike does help her into the gown and fixes the corset. And he's like, I've had a lot of experience dressing women. I got you, sugar. We meet brother-in-law Thomas on land. They're in like the city area. And we meet his brother-in-law Thomas. And Mike is inquiring about maids and having Meg have a little lady servant to help her get dressed. And here we kind of have her entering this giant house. Her grandfather's hand beneath her elbow urged her toward the double wide gates in the fence. Before she could stop herself, she heard herself gasp, I can't. You can, and you will. Pippin's arm went bracingly around her shoulders. It's only a house, Meg. I won't let you fling it all away now. Surely we've come too far for that. Meg could only shake her head. More than anything, she wanted to go back to the ship. She would suffocate inside these walls cut off from the sea. She saw Sutton turn and stare at her in sudden concern. Then Glenn Morgan was beside her. With a casual nod of his head, he sent the others ahead. Sometimes when I was a boy, he remarked conversationally, taking her hand in his. If I couldn't sleep, I used to sneak out to the terrace at night. Up there, he said, pointing to the vine-covered balcony, hugging the front of the house, which faced the bay. You know, from there, you can see all the way up to the sea. I used to pretend it was a ship's quarterdeck and I was the captain. Using the stars, I plotted my course to the West Indies, or sometimes to places a great deal farther from that. That'll be your room, if you like. The one that opens on the terrace. There's a stairway that leads into the garden. It was one of my favorite hiding places when I was a boy and had to get away to be by myself. You'll find that the doors are never kept locked and the windows are always left open to let in the breeze off the sea. Meg frowned uncertainly, gazing up at him. And now that you're all grown up, she said, and have been to see all those places you dreamed about as a boy, do you think you will still feel the urge occasionally to get away by yourself? Mike smiled. You may be certain of it. His fingers brushed a stray lock of hair from her face. Especially if I know a girl with hair the color of moonlight will be there waiting for me. You will be there, won't you, Meg? He murmured, his look quizzing her. Wait for me. They had been walking as they talked, and suddenly, though she could not remember having climbed the marble stairs, Meg became aware that they were before the great carved doors, standing open as though it too were waiting for the answer to the question. Gravely, she lifted shadowed eyes to his face, knowing she dare not tell him the truth, and that she couldn't lie. Always, she answered in a voice hardly above a whisper, in my heart. Then, without a word, she turned and stepped through the doorway. Glenn Morgan frowned, troubled by her answer. Only a fool or a blind man would have failed to see the sadness in her eyes or sense the vagueness of her reply. He would have called her back to demand an explanation or at least to pin her down to a more satisfactory response. But then a low cry issued from the far end of the hall. Michael! And that is his sister Kate. And Kate, I hate when in these books, the sisters and the brothers talk about how into their brother and sister they are, and the only thing stopping them is the fact that they are blood related. Because she says that, like, I would fall for you if we weren't related. You look so handsome. And it's like, ew. Kate takes Meg to her room. Meg is like, I do not belong here. This is not a pretty woman moment. And Kate's like, you'll be fine. I'll teach you how to get dressed and take tea. It'll be fine. We cut to weeks. Meg has not been to the sea. She can only sustain herself if she is with Mike physically, of which she is. We get another sex scene of her revitalizing herself, if you will. She meets his mom, his other little sister. They fuss over dresses for her. Again, it's like this little pretty woman moment. Grandfather is really into Mike's mom. Weird. Meg begs grandfather to leave. She's like, I'm going to die in this house. Like, I have to leave. And it's just a fucking mess because Mike thinks he's doing the right thing. He's like, I'm going to marry her. I'm going to give her this like huge house with all of these servants. She can see the sea. It's going to be beautiful. And she's withering away. And he thinks it's like depression. And I'm kind of like, Meg, you've got to tell him. I don't know if you can tell him you're a mermaid, but you got to be like, look, I have to physically touch seawater to live. Because he thinks that she hates him. And it's so frustrating. It's that miscommunication of he's like, oh my God, she fucking hates me. She's miserable. And it's like, no, she's literally dying. She needs seawater. we have a beach episode, like in all good animes. You have to have a beach episode. And that is because grandfather is like, hey, what if we all went to the beach for a picnic? Wouldn't that be cunty? And the girls are like, okay, that'd be fun. And Meg, is like, thank you. And as they are in their little dinghy, kind of piddling around in the ocean, just playing, just kind of, with their parasols, and they're just on the shore, a giant ship passes them to go to the harbor. And Meg looks up. She notices it's not only Drago's ship, remember Drago, but she looks up and a man turns around and makes direct eye contact with her. And it's Logan Tharp. Fuck! She sneaks from the picnic to go mermaid. She's mermaiding. She's feeling great. Like, she doesn't want to go back to being a human. She's like, ugh. As she's swimming around, she's taking notice of like the different waters. I don't think they're in the Caribbean anymore. I forget where they're kind of at. They're somewhere else. And so the ocean floor isn't full of beautiful fish and pretty colors. It's kind of drab. And she's kind of like, and the water's really cold. And as she's surfacing, she sees what are they called? A skivvy, a tiny little boat full of pirates going straight towards Mike's family on the beach. And she sees other pirates cutting through the woods. And she's like, oh my God, they're going to kill everybody. What do I do? Before that happens, though, first mate Dick and little sister Kate, they have this love tryst. And it's kind of, I had to do the math because Kate's like, you're a farming boy. Why do you hang around with my brother on this ship? You like to farm. And Dick's like, well, he's my best friend. Like, I'll do anything for him. But you're right. I do like farming more than the sea. And Dick says he met Kate when she was 5. And he's like, I met Kate when she was 5. And like, they just talk about how like they've always had a thing for each other. Not when she was 5. Because I was like, ooh, where's this going? But he says like 7 years ago, he fell in love with her. And I had to do the math. So she's 21 now because she was, I think, I don't fucking know, y'all. Okay, let me go back. He says he met her when she was 5. They're both expressing their love for one another. This is a love confession of first mate Dick and little sister Kate. But she's 21 when she confesses. And he's like, because she says, I fell in love with you 7 years ago. And I'm like, and he says, but you were 14, you were a child. Okay, thank God. Yeah, now I remember it. Because I remember being like, ooh, red flag, ew. But no, he says that you were a child, you don't know what you loved. And she's like, I loved you and I still do. And I had to do the math. And I was like, what was 7 years ago? Okay, she's 21 now. So it's okay. But it was a wobbly confession at first when I was first reading it. I was like, uh-oh. Just how accurate is this going to be, Joanna? The family is attacked. And obviously Mike shows up to save the day. And as he is holding one of the men hostage, he's like, why did Drago send y'all? Why do y'all want my family? And the henchman's like, we don't want your family. We just want the girl. And he's like, what girl? And they're like, the girl with the silver hair. And then Mike looks around. He's like, where the fuck is Meg? Mike does find her on the island, like over by herself. And he's like, where the fuck were you? And he says, quote, you insane little fool. It's time I took you home, which I don't like. I'm not a child. Don't talk to me like that. They argue about where she was while on the way to a small seaside cottage. And she immediately falls in love with it. It has a housekeeper that's very nice to her and she loves it. She's like, this is a beautiful home. It's right by the ocean. This is amazing. Mike, I know he means well, but he's kind of, again, treating her like a child. He's like, you can stay here. I'll visit. This woman will take care of you. You and your grandfather will be set. And Meg's kind of like, I'm not a pet. You're not going to put me up. Okay? They fight. And she brings up Dick, and in her side of it, she brings up Dick as someone who's nice to her and understands who she is. She's like, Dick understands what I am and what I need. And she's trying to allude to the mermaid thing without saying it. And of course, Mike sees it as her saying her and Dick have a thing, like that they love each other. And he's like, oh, okay, so you and my first mate, understand each other. Is that what I'm understanding? And she's a mermaid. She doesn't understand human, things. And she's like, yes, he does understand who I am, because she's thinking literally. And you're just screaming in this novel like, oh my God, this is going to ruin everything. And it does, because Mike fucking leaves thinking that she and his best friend have a thing. And as Meg is like, good, fuck him, the housekeeper is like, girl, he spent like a month rebuilding this cottage for you. He put everything into this because he wanted you to be comfortable, and he knew you were suffocating in that house. This is his act of love. Mike's love language is building a cottage. And Meg's like, oh, oops. Mike is confronted at a brothel. Mike's drowning his sorrows that the love of his life and his best friend are probably having a relationship at a brothel. He's at a bar. He's surrounded by girls. His family, his little sisters and his brother-in-law Thomas show up, and they're like, Mike, what are you doing? And he's just like, leave me alone. Go away. And they're just like, you are going to ruin so much. Like, you and Meg need to work this out. And he's just like, fuck off. And so they leave. And he is talking to a sex worker, and he needs to find, quote, a Frenchman. And you're like, who the fuck is that? Again, the political intrigue in this novel is so confusing. He's like, look, I'm not going to pay you for sex, but I need some information. And he's like, I need to know where the Frenchman is. And I'm just like, who is the Frenchman? Dick shows up to the brothel as well to find Mike. They obviously have a fight because of miscommunication. Because Mike is yelling at Dick for taking advantage of a young lady. Dick thinks Mike is yelling about Kate, his little sister. And Dick's like, but you don't understand. We've always loved each other. And I promise to take care of her. And I promise. And Mike thinks that he's talking about Meg. And again, I'm reading this just going, oh my gods. Oh my God. Somebody tell them that they're talking about the other. And of course, they aren't friends anymore, and they break up, and Dick's not his first mate. And the whole time I'm screaming at my computer. Y'all, guess who he meets? Guess who Mike meets after losing every fucking thing? Fucking Clarissa. Oh, you always go back to your toxic ex. He is rebounding in the worst way. He snatches Clarissa up, though. Okay, so he snatches Clarissa up by her throat, and she's kind of into it. She's like, oh, Mike, hi. Hello. And he is obviously pissed that she tried to kill him, to which she says was because she was so heartbroken, and she was trying to give him a merciful death because Logan isn't. Logan's going to torture you. I was trying to put you out of your misery before Logan caught you. And Mike's like, where is Logan? And she's like, he's out of town. It's just us. It's just me and you. And they are having a very kinky, steamy sex scene. Not sex scene, but like very kinky. He's choking her, but also like grabbing her ass and like holding her. And she's really into it and telling him like, I had to. I couldn't stand you being without me, so I had to kill you. And at least it was a merciless, a quick death. And he's trying to get some information out of her as to where her husband is. 2 weeks later, there is a giant ball. Gossip. Just a bunch of gossip over like where Mike's at. No one knows. Meg is still at this fucking house trying to pretend she's human. She's like, I want to go. Hup. We have a Cinderella moment, however, where she is all gussied up for once, wearing the correct clothing, looks beautiful. And she is at the top of the stairs, and she has no one to escort. Because like back then, women had to be escorted by a man, and she has no one to escort her because her grandfather walked down with Mike's mom. And as she's kind of getting nervous, Mike shows up. Now keep in mind, he's been gone for 2 weeks. No one knows where he's been. He shows up, grabs her hand, walks her into the ballroom. Everybody's like, oh, it's Mike. He came back. What the fuck? Like, you know, the fans are fanning right now. They're like, oh, Mike came back. He's back. Look at him. Look at him. Look, 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 look. And we have this. My mother and my sisters are to be congratulated, he murmured. You're beautiful. The most beautiful woman ever to grace Charlestown. He smiled mirthlessly. But it'll be the old Meg, barefooted and untamed as a sea sprite, who will haunt my dreams tonight. What are you saying? Meg gasped, alarmed by the note of finality in his words. Her face paled. She moved towards him. Glenn Morgan stopped her. It's no use, he said. Go home, Meg. Back to the West Indies. There's nothing for you here. Meg opened her mouth to protest, to somehow bring him to his senses. Then, surrounded by clamoring admirers, eager to make their acquaintance of the new young belle of Charlestown, he released her and walked away. To see this scene played out, y'all. I know I say this every time. Make these movies, make these miniseries. Meg, like not a lot happens. Like some other weeks go by. Meg is obviously dying, but she wants her last dying act to be helping her life mate because she overhears, this Tharp bullshit and Drago bullshit. And she's like, obviously Mike is intertwined with this drama. I need to help my life mate. It will be my last act of service. And we cut to Mike. It's like the night before an opera. And Mike and Clarissa, she doesn't want to go to the opera. She's not feeling well and very tense. And he's like, let me relax you. And I thought they had sex, but apparently they didn't. I think he just gave her oral because he relaxes her. But then in this later sequence, when I'm about to read it, you'll see that they didn't consummate. So I'm kind of like, okay. So maybe he did like the old Victorian method of relieving hysteria, if you will. Mm-hmm. And we have this interchange with them. Until tonight, I was beginning to suspect that you were only using me to get at Logan. Were you? He laughed. And now you've changed your mind. Is that it? Yes. Oh, yes, Michael. Now I can tell you I've been waiting for you. Waiting in eternity. I want to make love to you now, my darling. Tonight. Glenn Morgan smiled coldly. What you want to grant me has nothing to do with love. To call it that, Clarissa, would be an obscenity. How dare you? Glenn Morgan's fingers clapped about her wrist before she could slap him. She gasped in pain. I dare, he said, sickened by the night's work, because I know the difference. Releasing her, he shrugged on his coat. This game draws in an end, Clarissa. You've served your purpose. When Tharp learns what passed tonight, and he will, won't he, Clarissa? You'll make sure of it. He'll have no choice but to call me out. And as for you, you'll be wise to leave Charlestown. Now, before it's too late. Clarissa stared at him, her eyes hard and opaque with sudden, dawning comprehension. You set me up! All these weeks! You never cared anything about me! Damn you! If all you wanted was to duel with Logan, you hardly needed to go to so much trouble. Glenn Morgan's eyes flashed cynically. Not just a duel, but payment for what you took from my mother and sisters. I think you'll find your welcome is run out of Charlestown, just as it once did for them. At least you have your life, which is more than I can say for my father. Ignoring her gasp of outrage, he strode quickly from the room. He did not look back, even when the brandy decanter crashed against the door he closed behind him, with Clarissa shrieking, I hope Logan kills you! Do you hear me? I hope he kills you! So, they broke up for the millionth time. Mike kills Clarissa's dad. It's a lot. I'm trying to, like I said, give you all the brief. Mike kills Clarissa's dad. So there's one out of the bad guys that's down. He needs to find the Frenchman. Y'all, I'm going to be real with y'all. I read the book. I don't know what this Frenchman kind of did. I'm sure it's in there and I'm sure it's laid out very clearly. Unreliable narrator maybe right now. But right now, I read the book, and I'm going to tell y'all, this Frenchman, not much happens. Not much happens. I don't know. Anyways, he's got to find the Frenchman. Mike and Drago fight, and Drago knows what Meg is, and he's kind of alluding to it, but Mike is completely oblivious because Drago's like, I know what the girl is, and I know why you won't let anyone touch her. And Mike's like, what? I just love her. And Drago's like, oh, I'm sure. She could destroy like fucking islands, and she can destroy ships. I'm sure that's why you just love her. And Mike is like, what are you talking about? And Drago finally says, she's a mermaid, you idiot. Did you not know? And Mike's like, oh, Meg? Meg? The girl who runs around barefoot on an island and I never see for days, and I've never seen her eat or drink, and she looks like an ethereal angel. She's a mermaid? Really? I don't believe you, good sir. Meg is on the beach about to jump in and become a mermaid and just fuck this human bullshit forever. She's like, this is too much. I don't have to be here. I could be swimming with orcas. I could be literally doing anything else. I don't have to do this. Now she knows she'll die without Mike, but she's kind of like, at least I'll die having some relief. But as she's about to jump in, little sister Kate shows up and she's trying to talk Meg down. She's like, Meg, come back. You know, she thinks like Meg's going to kill herself, like jump in the ocean to die. And Kate's like, you know, come back, please. You have to make up with Mike. But Meg cuts her back with, I will when you make up with Dick. And all of a sudden it's like, oh no, I couldn't possibly. Dick shows up, of course, and as Meg is like, yeah, I'll make up with your brother when you make up with Dick. Do it, Kate. Because Dick and Kate, I don't know if I mentioned before, but they fought after they gave their love confession. There's a lot in this novel of like people loving each other and then like not happy with it, and then they fight. Anyways. But Kate and Dick apparently are fighting, and Meg's like, I'll make up with your brother when you make up with Dick. And then Kate and Dick fight again, and Meg uses this opportunity to just run off again. No one knows where she went. Cut to, this is kind of the ending of the book, and so there's a lot of action of Mike's kind of doing his Kill Bill montage of he's just killing everybody. He killed Thornton. He's now killed Drago, sinks Drago's ship, the Seahawk. We are at a horse track. I know, we're bouncing everywhere. The ending of these novels are always kind of like crazy. We're at a horse track, and Meg sees Mike with Clarissa. And then she also sees Tharp, and Tharp ignores Mike and Clarissa and just makes eyes with Meg. And you're like, uh-oh. But Mike's, okay, so Clarissa and Mike are like, she sees Clarissa holding on to Mike, and she's like, well, I'm glad he's fucking happy, and kind of storms off. But then we cut to Mike's point of view, and Mike's point of view is Clarissa gets out of her carriage and is pissed at him, and she's like, I'm going to get you fucking killed. She clings to him, kisses him so that Tharp will see her husband, and Tharp will kill him, and so Meg will see, and Meg will hate him. It's a lot. But y'all, I can't make this up. Clarissa at the racetrack gets kicked in the head by a horse. She's dead. Fucking dead. Clarissa's dead. She gets hit in the head by a horse. Her last act of life was being a fucking cunt. How fitting. Tharp shows up because his wife is now dead on the on the floor, and he's like, pity. And he blames Clarissa's misfortunes on nobody but herself. He's just like, well, she shouldn't have been a bitch to me. Shouldn't have been a bitch to you. Anyways, he does tell Mike as they are standing over Clarissa's dead body. He's like, well, you do know she shot your father, right? Because Mike the whole time is just like, I know you fucking killed my dad. And he's just like, well, Clarissa pulled the trigger, so. And as they are kind of having a threat off of like threatening each other, obviously a commotion occurs because there's a dead woman at the racetrack, and Tharp's just like, well, it's a shame we won't get to race, because they had horses in this race. Mike and Tharp had horses to race against one another, and he's like, well, it's a shame we won't get to race today. I was looking forward to it. And he just melts like a Batman villain into the crowd and disappears. However, before he totally disappears, he snatches Meg up, and you're just like, God damn it. And like I said, we're at the last tail end of this novel. I'm trying to go as fast as, I'm not trying to go as fast as I can, but I am trying to just not bog it down. It's a very detailed novel. Again, we are covering these novels because so many people think that they're just lady porn and they just couldn't possibly be interesting. These are the most researched, word heavy, character heavy books I've ever read in my life. They are intense with plot. And y'all think me talking about it for 2 to 3 hours is a lot? Read the damn things. Meg wakes up. She's in a room. It's a nice room, but the windows are barred. Very gilded cage. And she knows she's at the Marigold. Okay. And the Marigold, I think, from what I can remember, was Clarissa's family's plantation. Yeah, I think. And Tharp comes in with his Dr. Evil self, and he tells her his plans and his evil monologue that he's going to take her all the way up to Nova Scotia, and then they're going to set sail all over the sea, and he's going to use her as a weapon. Cool. First Mate Dick and Grandfather confront Mike with the mermaid truth. They are like, oh my God, Mike, you fucking idiot. Everybody knows but you. She's a mermaid. And Mike's like, what? Really? Because Grandfather's like, you have to find Meg. She will die without you. She will die without the sea. She will wither up and die. And as Mike's like, oh my God, I know where he's hiding her. He's hiding her at the Marigold, because before Clarissa died, she said that like she couldn't wait for us to kill each other, and she would always win no matter what. And so he figures out that she was talking about the Marigold, of like, even though she's dead, Tharp owns now the Marigold through their marriage, but then if he's dead, he doesn't get it. Anyways, like a lot of political crap. And I love this. Essentially the cops show up because Mike, when he turned in the treasure to the king, didn't turn in all of the guns that were on board. And so, like fucking cops, they've got to make everything so ridiculous. And so they're like, we need you to come with us because you didn't bring back all of the guns. And he's like, I brought back all of the treasure. Shut the fuck up. I couldn't go and get all of it. It's at the bottom of the sea. Anyways, but I love this. He tells Dick with his horse, he's like, keep that horse warm and ready for when I'm done, because I'm going to get on it and I'm going to go. And I took it as like, keep that car running. Keep the car warm. I'm going to be right back. Megan and Tharp Megan is telling Tharp, like, I'm no use to you. I will die. And he's like, whatever. And she's like, no, I'm a mermaid. I will die if I'm not near the sea. And my life mate. And Tharp's like, what are you talking about? She explains to him that she gave her soul to essentially Mike. And so she's fucked without Mike. And Tharp's like, are you fucking kidding me? Really? 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 And he's kind of like, okay, well, I can't use you as a weapon, but at least I can use you to draw out Mike and kill him. So I guess I'll get something out of this. Mike shows up. He fights the guards down at the bottom of the plantation. Sword fight. He kills the guy, but then is also extremely wounded himself and crumples to the ground, bleeding out. Meg, in her, again, Atlantis Kita moment, eyes shine white, hair flies up, and she starts singing. And storm clouds are brewing, and she's like, Led Zeppelin, like, ah! I do so much screaming in this video. It's a lot of singing. Anyways, she's enraged. She nearly shatters her stone, like that necklace that has her essence in it. She nearly shatters it, which would kill her. But before she can shatter it, through her rage that Mike has been like almost fatally wounded, he stops her. He's like, Meg, chill. He doesn't say that. It's more dramatic, but he's like, calm down, baby girl. I'll bleed a little out, but I'll be like, I'm still alive. Like, calm down. You're about to kill somebody, because remember, her life vow was she would never kill anybody with her powers, because the sea god killed her civilization for using their powers to kill people. Take a drink, y'all. Whew. Mike stops her, but while he stops her, He's also looking for a gun to shoot Tharp with. Tharp grabs her necklace because he saw that it was it was shining and it nearly shattered. And he's like, I bet that's important. Grabs her necklace, fucking books it. And you're like, shit. Mike goes after him. They're on their racehorses. Remember, they both had racehorses. They're on their racehorses, racing, Mike's trying to catch up to Tharp. He gets neck and neck with him as if they're in the horse race that they were supposed to have. Jumps off of his horse, attacks Tharp, pulls him to the ground. They fall down. Mike kills Tharp because he falls on his fucking neck. He falls off a racehorse. Anyways, Tharp's dead. The necklace is fine. Meg will live. And he returns and Meg's gone. Obviously. She can't fucking sit still. The girls in this novel, they never sit still. Every novel we've ever read, the guys are always like, stay. And the girls are like, I'll do anything but. But we have this. To hell with the arm, Glenn Morgan growled, impaling the old man with light piercing eyes. Will she live? The words seemed dragged from his depths. Will she come back again? The sea will revive her and give her strength, but she'll not come back here again, not on her own. If you want her, you'll have to go after her. The island more than likely. Come and sit down. Meg's body may be already on the way to mending, but only you can make her heart whole again. She'll need you, well and strong, if she's to find the will to go on living. With the bitter certainty that Meg was gone and that there was nothing he could do to call her back again, Glenn Morgan felt the last of his strength desert him. He sank heavily into the chair to which Pippin guided him, and drawing the gemstone from where it hung on a chain about his neck, gazed into it. Was he dreaming? Or did the web of cracks already seem less pronounced, the interior less cloudy? A long breath escaped his lips. No, he could not be mistaken. He did see it, and it was more powerful than before. The depths of the gemstone were a blue-green heart of flame. The gemstone was mending, and with it, Meg. He would give her all the time she needed. But when the stone shone with a clear, unmolted transparency, he would be there. There was not a storm or sea too savage to keep her from him. And that's technically the end of the book. Now, don't worry, there's an epilogue. I know a lot of y'all are like hitting the brakes of your car like, what? There's an epilogue, don't worry. But essentially, he has Megan's life force here, and he can tell when she's fully healed, and when she's fully healed, he will go find her. Let's go see where he finds her. The epilogue is Meg on her island, and she again is standing on the shore about to return to the sea. Mike shows up behind her. He apologizes for everything, for thinking that her and Dick had a relationship, for treating her like a child, for not understanding what she was and who she was, mermaid or not. And after he apologizes to everything, he says this quote, and it made me just go, ah! He says, "Didn't you know? A Glenn Morgan mates for life." Now, that's not the ending, but he understands. He understands, and he made it like a human thing. He wasn't like, I know you're a mermaid and you have to be with me. He was like, no, Glenn Morgan's mate for life too, girl. This ain't nothing. This ain't just about mermaids. It's about me and you. Ah! Okay. They give their vows of love because Meg explains to him like the final rites to being with a mermaid, like to become whole. And they give their final vows. And she explains to him, you will become a part of me. Like, you will hear my thoughts. You will know where I am. You will be one with the sea. And Mike, in true Walter Goggins kind of jokingly fashion, was like, am I going to get a tail? And she's like, no, you won't be a mermaid, but the sea will give you strength. You will get power and energy and life force from the sea. Because remember, she doesn't eat or drink. Well, she got drunk, but she doesn't need it because the sea gives it to her. She's like, you'll be the same way. And he asks, what about our kids? Are they going to have little fishtails? And she's like, no, but they will also have the power of song, and they will also have the power of the sea. And so they hold hands, they give their final vows, like a little wedding. And we have this last closing paragraph, and then we'll get into my thoughts. Then his lips were devouring hers, weaving their spell of magic above her. His hands were awakening the tempest that would carry them both to the heights of rapture. And suddenly she knew what her mother had never really known, that their love would never be a prison. Together they would truly be free. Through him she would come to know all the places she had ever dreamed of seeing, and through her he would learn the secrets of the sea, even the wonders of her mother's people, whom she had discovered still living in a marvelous place far below the watery depths. They would join now, first in the way that she had come in the beginning to love him, and then again later in the way of her people. Michael, she breathed, losing herself to the ecstasy of his embrace. Oh, Michael, I've been waiting for so long. It was all either of them said for a very long time. The end. And that is our elusive but rewarding sea treasure. Now, immediately, just off the cuff, why wouldn't their kids have mermaid abilities? Because she is from a mermaid land person union and she can turn into a mermaid. Why can't her kids? Is it just a second generation thing? Anyways, that's a little nitpicky. But did I love this? This isn't my favorite book, but I wouldn't spend $40 on it. That's for sure. I'm glad I didn't. The gods were with me on that. They said, girl, no. If I found it in the wild, I would get it because it's just so rare, but I wouldn't necessarily buy it out of just the good story. I liked it because she got to mermaid a lot. I feel like in a lot of mermaid tales, they pull you in with being a mermaid and then they're like human half the book or more of the book. And I hate it. Don't do that. Give me mermaid all the time. Like, I'm working on a mermaid novel myself, and I'll go ahead and tell y'all, she stays mermaid the whole book. I don't like that human shit. I want tail 24/7. That sounded terrible, but it's not wrong. But I want a mermaid to be a mermaid the whole book or the whole movie. So do you know, whenever I get around to writing that more, and finding someone to publish it, it will be a mermaid story where she's a mermaid the whole time. But I liked that in the Sea Treasure, she does turn into a mermaid at least several times. It's not super detailed. I wish it was. I wish we spent more time with Meg as a mermaid. I wish we could have seen more of her society because she said she found her mother's people. That's the only time we ever hear of that. Like, she doesn't say like she went on like a little rumspringa, a little sabbatical, found somebody. Like, no. So I was kind of like, okay, I wish we got more mermaid. Mike's a complicated guy. Again, he reminds me of a Walter Goggins character. He's not good. He's not bad. He's just this entity. Very William Dafoe. Like, he's a wiry southern little pirate guy. And he's weird. He's weird throughout the book. And I just think that Meg and him are this weird little alien couple because she doesn't look human and he's not really human either. Like, in his weird little, like I said, Walter Goggins way or William Dafoe kind of way. And they're just this weird little couple and they kind of work out together because it's like, well, he's a little weirdo and she's a little weirdo and they appreciate each other's weirdness. And like she said in the ending, they will find strength through each other and that her love for a land person will not be a prison like it was for her mother. It will set her free. And I was like, that's a beautiful way of saying that. Those are beautiful. I loved that. Again, this book is heavy in drama and intrigue, in piracy. Like, I skipped a lot of quotes and stuff because I was like, I've got to wrap this up. I can't sit here and just read this whole book. It was a little bogged down. Again, I would have focused more on the fantastical elements versus the pirate history and Mike's stuff. And then, like, you have all these evil villains and you build up like Clarissa and Tharp and Drago and this Frenchman. And like he just kills them all, like immediately in one chapter, just one after the other. Kill Bill. Like he just is Uma Thurman and just kills them all. And I kind of love that Clarissa just died from a horse kicking her in the head. Like it was just the perfect way for her to die. Like I think it would have been too intimate for Mike to kill her. I love that she just got fucking clonked in the head. But yeah, and then Mike's obviously first mate Dick and Kate get back together, and then Mike's mom and grandfather get together. So it is kind of this like big family thing. Everybody's happy and it's a good happy ending. And it just reminded me a lot. It's a very, like I said, Tarzan, Atlantis kind of love story of you have this human creature thing that is raised outside of human society. And then you have this explorer who desperately wants to learn about them, and they through each other. I love that kind of story. I think it's great. I think Meg's observations throughout this book of human society were really enlightening. Like she was like, well, I'd rather fuck you than marry you. Like, why would I want to get married to you? Let's just continue having sex. Like, that's better. And he's like, but you don't understand. Like, we have to get married. And she's like, but why? Again, her observations of humans killing each other, because she's like, well, sharks do it because they're just kind of mindless eating machines. And she's like, and whales don't. And she's like, so I thought humans were like whales. Are they more like sharks? And her grandfather's like, it's a fucking mess, girl. Humans are wild. Stay away from them. And throughout this novel, I didn't cover all of them, but like her observations of human society are great. But she's not this wayward Tarzan too much character. She does understand marriage. She does understand society to an extent. Like she's not totally lost. My only complaint, I think, like I said, is just the heavy ship facts and stuff like that. And then like also this kind of not Lolita thing, but just kind of like, oh, she's so childlike and she's full of wonder. And it's like, I don't know. Like I said, I love a golden retriever guy. I love a golden retriever girl. I love like, I kind of see it as like how you would describe like Fran Drescher from The Nanny of like, oh, she's so whimsical. She's so full of curiosity, but she's not childlike. Okay. Like that kind of description. But in these old novels, they kind of just go with like, she's so childlike, but she looks like a woman. Ew. So please join me on the Patreon if you want to hear those steamy scenes of, in picturing Walter Goggins. Or whoever you want. And also for, like I said, our movie, we're going to be covering a Killer Mermaid movie that has a great twist. Like I always think about it because of the twist in it. Like I always think and remember that twist. And then, like I said, my Sunday stories is literally just going to be me just ranting about the Titan submersible. Please watch the documentary so you know what I'm talking about. And also the Titanic itself. I just need to have a moment, y'all. I just need to have a moment. Okay. And honestly, y'all may like it more than my Sunday stories. Maybe my Sunday stories just needs to be me ranting about whatever's on my mind. I don't know. Our next novel for next month is the novel that I was getting started on in case I couldn't get Sea Treasure. So I've already kind of started on it. So let's just go ahead. And it's also a pirate novel. It's Beloved Scoundrel by our favorite Penelope Neri. Now, next month is August, and that's going to be our 2-year anniversary. Hello. 2-year anniversary of this channel. So we got to go back to our roots. We got to go back to the woman who started this all, Penelope Neri. Okay? And this is a pirate novel. Let's see how she covers a pirate novel. Let's finish summer out with more like just one more little pirate novel for the road, you know? We love a pirate romance novel. Let's see what Penelope Neri does with the themes of pirates, okay? I'm excited for it. I was reading, like I said, I've got a few chapters in, and I think it's going to be a good time. She's never led us astray, y'all. Now let me read y'all the back, okay? Ruthless brute. When the scruffy street urchin robbed handsome James Mallory of his cape, he set off in hot pursuit to teach the little cut purse a lesson he'd never forget. But then the enraged captain discovered the streetwise scamp was really A gorgeous, curvaceous Christian. His molten fury flared into hot-blooded desire. James took the scheming minx to his rooms to punish her for her deceit and to show her how a woman should behave with a man. Heartless wench. Summoning all the tricks she had learned as a thieving lad, the golden-haired beauty fought off her abductor with all her strength. But in just a moment, her blows became caresses, her struggles melted into an embrace, and her muttered oaths faded into moans of pleasure. Still, Christiane denied what her body admitted and plotted her revenge against the arrogant seaman, even if it meant never again savoring the exquisite touch of his skins against hers. One day, she would get even with her passionate tormentor, her one and only beloved scoundrel. I love how they always make these sound so raunchy, and then we read them, and they're the most heartbreaking, beautiful stories you've ever read. And it's like, wow, never judge a book by its cover or its back summary. But yes, next month we'll be rounding out. I guess this is turning into pirate summer. You know, I wanted it to be mermaid summer, pirate summer, whatever. Ocean, nautical summer. Okay. I'm just going to get my big hibiscus here. That was huge. And say thank y'all for watching. I will see you on the Patreon next week, or I will see you next month. And make sure y'all wear your sunscreen. Stay safe. Enjoy your July. Have a good 4th of July. And I'll see y'all soon. Thank you so much for watching.